All right, Bill.
All right, cool. How's it going?
Not so bad.
Yeah.
I was just musing, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, in the absence of the three amigos on our television sets, you know, the car show.
Oh, those three, yeah.
Yeah, kind of miss them a bit. Imagine this situation. One of them was to come around to your house to roast your collection of classic cars.
Right.
Which one would it be? Who do you prefer?
All right. If it was the Poundland Alan Davis, I should welcome him into my domicile. Offer the gentleman a cup of tea, perhaps a Garibaldi biscuit. But if he suggested that I sent my Morrissey towel in Tahiti blue for scrap and recreated instead in the form of Meccano, I should say, oi mate, no, you must slap.
What about the small one then?
If I saw the Pacino-esque features of the most diminutive member of the trio on my newly installed ring bell, I should welcome him across the threshold. But no tea for perhaps an exotic coffee as befits his Latin-esque looks, a cappuccino, a flat white, or a latte. If he suggested that I strap a Boost Palouse rocket from a Sea King helicopter to the roof rack of my Morrissey towel, I should say, oi, no, perhaps punch him in the face.
Oh, well, what about the tall one, the one that looks a bit like a cow?
Oh, yes, now we're talking. If I heard the distinctive clatter of a John Deere tractor coming along Acacia Gardens, I should say, hello, Mr. Jeffrey Carlson, come in the back garden, you could dig some horse muck into my potatoes. But if he'd brought with him a blacksmith's anvil and he proposed dropping it onto my Morrissey towel, then I should say to him, go on, mate, fuck that car. Cheers.
Phew.
Where do you think you'd go on a day like this if we were the gay couple that most people think that we are now? Because I keep going on about it all the time. I don't think this scarf is doing my heterosexuality any favours.
Not a lot of things are doing these days.
Cyclist Richard!
No, it's the wrong car.
What do you mean it's the wrong car?
Well, this is an HHR. That was an SD3, which was basically this car's granddad.
You're splitting hairs. It's cut from the same cloth. It has the same. It's aimed at exactly the same people.
Yeah.
Hyacinth and Richard. Lower middle class, social climbing, bourgeois. People who would think that this is better than an Astra or an Escort, which it's not.
Yes, it is.
I think it is, actually. I just said that because I wanted to disagree with the Wookiee and perhaps create an argument which may prove mildly amusing to people.
Well, we've got plenty of opportunities to argue today.
Why? I think this was of all the cars we've driven, and what have we driven now? Like nearly 30.
23, I think this is.
Oh, that's nearly 30, isn't it?
Well, it's closer to 30
than 5.
40.
No, it isn't. Oh, yeah, it is. No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
I came here for an argument. Is this where you come for an argument? We're doing Monty Python again. Yeah, I think I was looking forward to this the least.
What, this car?
Yeah.
Why?
Because, Paul, my research has made me hate the Americans and the Germans and the Japanese. Because between the three of them, they conspired to ruin Rover.
Yeah.
And I sort of knew that, but the more research I did, and I did quite a lot, I had a deep dive, as people on the internet say. They don't mean it, but I did. I read a lot of stuff, and I watched a lot of stuff, and I listened to a lot of stuff about the demise of Rover. And the more I read, and the more I listened to, and the more I watched, the angrier I got at the way that we got shafted. It's an absolute scandal. Please delete that.
Delete that bit, yeah.
But it is, mate, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's shocking.
Yeah. But it's basically they all had a go each, didn't they? Until eventually it was completely gone.
Well, I'll tell you what they did. They did things in their own interest. And by the way, it was the people who bombed the living shit to the Rover factory, who ultimately committed the coup de grace in putting Rover out of its misery. When you see what happened, and people say, oh, you can't go back to the war. Are you going on about the war? Yeah, I am going on about the bloody war. Because Rover came out of the war having been bombed to the Stone Age by the Luftwaffe. So why didn't somebody put their hand in the pocket and pay for Rover to be rebuilt? The way that the Americans paid for the German and the Japanese motor industries to be built back and built back better and stronger so that they could destroy the rest of Europe's car industry, and particularly the British car industry, throughout the 70s and 80s. Yes, we contributed to that in some ways by sort of problems with the unions and ineffective management and self-serving people like them that got their hands on Rover at the end, who just did it for themselves, took a load of money out of it and sod the workers and sod Rover. This is why I didn't want to do this car, Paul, because you're getting
angry, aren't you?
I'm getting angry because Rovers are are and were good cars. The 414 SI with a 1.4 version of the twin cam K series engine, yes, Paul?
Correct.
It was available as...
Oh, you carry on, you know your stuff.
Well, I defer to thy good self in this regard, because you are you not, at the same time the Wookiee, but also Paul Roverman in another guise.
In the same guise,
No, you're not. All big in the 90s, you are the Wookiee.
All right.
We rarely refer to your other stuff that you do with other people. Yeah, he goes off and does stuff with other people. It's like an open marriage, this, isn't it? Yeah, so this is the 1.4. Was that the smallest version? They did a 1.4, a 1.6 and a 2 litre, I know that.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did.
No. It was a 1.1, a 1.4, 1.6 and a 1.8.
And this car was
no
available
2 litre.
as...
The 2 litre that was in this car was a T series engine.
So the 400 was meant to compete with the Escort and the Astra, yeah?
Yeah. And it did, but it was more expensive.
And it's a bit bigger, isn't it? It's like a foot longer than an Escort.
I don't think it's... I think the booted version might be, but... Yeah, just change down. Take it easy.
There was an executive, a D, an SD, an SDI. Why was there an SD and an SDI?
Just for the fun of it.
We've got a sunshine roof. Electric sunshine roof.
Electric front windows.
Electric front windows. Spanish glass in the back.
Yep.
As old 2Ls would have said. What about the trim level? What about these seats?
Yeah, the Paisley seats, they're very comfortable, but they're not leather.
Paisley.
Yeah.
Hyacinth would like the Paisley seats, wouldn't she?
Yes,
it's
she would.
Proper Hyacinth bucket spec, this one, isn't it? It's the epitome of semi-detached suburban respectability from the mid-90s, this car, isn't it?
Do you know what this car's called?
This car has a name.
Yeah.
Hyacinth.
No, lots of people call small Rovers Hyacinth, and that's just not really putting in a great deal of imagination. This is called Ronnie Corbett. There we go. Fix your glasses.
My producer.
Because it's very, very likeable and sweet and quite small and reliable and funny.
No, it isn't. You're just saying that.
I'm not just saying.
You were doing okay, and then you just added a lot of stuff that doesn't make any sense.
Do you not think it's funny then?
I don't think it's funny at all.
But you look quite happy driving it.
I'm wondering if I'm a bit too comfortable. I might have arrived at that point in life where a Rover 400, I never thought I'd say that. I used to ride like a Yamaha VMAX through winter, through the snow, like a sort of 145 brake horsepower of rip snorting, tarmac melting, two-wheel terror. And now I'm sitting in a Rover 400 thinking, this is quite nice, I like this. Do you know what I reckon this would be? Who would have bought one of these?
Here we go.
John Shuttleworth.
Oh,
Murray! We're in Yorkshire. Murray! Oh, man, I've come up on the pools and I've bought myself a lovely Rover, a 414 SI, electric sunshine roof. It's got electric windows in the front. If you're in the back, Ken, you can wind them down. And have we got aircon? Let's have a look.
No.
Oh no! No.
John Shuttleworth wouldn't have needed aircon. Do we need aircon in this country?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aircon clears a car that this so.
That's you use it.
Look where we are. Wow.
I know. Should we have a quick look?
Yeah. Have a look how magnificent these rolling moorland. This is the Pennines. This is probably the lumpiest bit of the Pennines, isn't it? Betwixt Oldham and like Huddersfield.
Yeah, it's a fabulous driving spot. Now, I'm going to say Bamber Gascoigne.
Bamber Gascoigne.
Right. Shall I tell you why?
Yes, go on.
Because I think he was the kind of man who was more interested in asking questions to students than driving a car to show off. I think he just wanted something reliable, smooth, and something that looks right with his tweed jacket.
Bamber Gascoigne is a very, very wealthy man, Paul. He wouldn't be driving a Rover 414.
He would.
He didn't have to rely on his income. He came into money. I reckon if Bamber Gascoigne had a car, I think he might be the sort of person who doesn't even have a car.
Yeah,
but
right.
if he had one,
It'd be one of these.
I reckon it'd be something like a big Citroen or a DS, an XM, or possibly a Bristol or something like the sort of thing that Sir Stephen Fry. Yeah, Stephen Fry's got a knighthood, which has ruined one of the best pub quiz questions, which was, which member of the regular cast of Blackadder is a Knight Commander of the British Empire? And of course, the only one who was a Sir was Baldric, i.e. Sir Tony Robinson, which you never would have thought, would you? Back in the 90s, if you'd looked at the characters on Blackadder and said, which one of these do you reckon will get a knighthood? You would have gone, oh, Stephen Fry, or you wouldn't have gone, yeah, Baldric. Sir Stephen Fry he is, for services to what? I'm not quite sure.
Entertainment, education,
Yeah.
being tall.
Being tall.
Why does it need to have cruise control?
How many horsepowers will we be having from this 1.4 litre of the twin cam K series? Has it got injection? It'll be injection, won't it? Because it's got an eye on the end on the badge on the back.
Yep, it has injection. It has 103 brake horsepower from its 1.4 K series engine, which is a severely misunderstood and underrated engine indeed.
No, it isn't. Look at it. It redlines at 7,000 RPM. What a great engine.
It was a great
No wonder so many of these engines ended up in like autograss cars, stock car. All sorts of people put this engine into kit cars and track cars and all sorts of stuff because it loves. I mean, they're going about Hondas loving to rev. This K series just thrives on revs, doesn't it?
It does, but unless you look after them, they don't rev for long. And that's where they had the head gasket issue.
Oh, the ears have just popped.
Reputation, which was really for people who don't look after things.
Ah, right, okay.
You've got to warm them up first. You warm them up properly, then you can rev it. Otherwise, you're creating imbalance of temperature with
I was driving at 50 miles an hour on the motorway. because I'm driving. I'm getting a bit too warm. I might have to take my scarf off. If this car was a shop, which shop would it be?
Oh, that's a blast from the past, isn't it? I forgot about that one.
Because I said that the Astra was next, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm going to say...
so if the Astra was next, what would this be? I've got an idea.
Sainsbury's.
No, I don't mean that kind of shop.
Oh, you mean a clothing shop?
Yeah, I did. Well, no, okay, Sainsbury's. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I think it is?
It's not Waitrose.
No, I think it's something that's like Rover. It's something that's missing, and I think it was the direct equivalent of a Rover from this period, and that would be C&A.
Oh, that's what I was trying to remember.
And I'll tell you why. My mother used to drag us all to Bolton to go to the C&A because Bury didn't have a C&A. Bury's, I think we've mentioned this before, Britain's smallest metropolitan borough. I've been writing about the difference between Bury, Bolton and Manchester. In a way, it's like a Russian doll and they fit inside it. Well, it is a bit like that. It's like Goldilocks. It's like one's too small, one's too big and one's just right. The problem with that is that I would have to admit that Bolton is the one. Bolton, Britain's biggest town.
Yeah.
Interesting fact. Now that Wolverhampton has city status, Bolton is the biggest town in Britain. So I've been doing a bit of Bolton research. I mean, Radio 2 couldn't exist without Bolton, could it? You've got your Mark Ratcliffe, you've got your Sarah Cox, you've got your Vernon Kay, you've got, for good or bad, your Paddy McGuinness, who seems ubiquitous at the moment, doesn't he? Although I very much doubt he could spell that or indeed tell you what it meant.
Do you know what the biggest village in the UK is?
No, but I'd be interested to know.
It's Cranley.
Cranley?
Near Guildford.
Oh, that's where you're from, isn't it?
No, I used to live near there. Cranley's actually very near the Dunsfold Aerodrome.
Yeah, where they used to do all the Top Geary stuff.
Oh, that first mention of Top Gear.
Sorry?
Or was it designed for the back seat never to be used?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because some cars, they knew. I mean, I was thinking about this. I was thinking, why would somebody want one of these? And I came to the conclusion that it's because they're old. Right, now, there's nothing wrong with being old. I'm old.
Yeah, you are.
There are all sorts of things there are all sorts of things wrong with being old, like the hair situation.
You didn't have to shave.
Well, I shaved it so I could stick 3 Weetabix to my head. Although when people ask me why I shaved my head and I tell them that, they don't half look at me funny. The controls are very light and there's very little effort required. They're not necessarily light in here, are they? But I would say they're well weighted, wouldn't you? There's a satisfying persnickety as you change the gears, and there's a bit of resistance in the steering. There's a sort of plump firmness, which obviously, you see what I'm trying to do?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get sexy stuff in without you noticing.
I haven't noticed it.
But it's pleasantly firm, the steering, but not too firm. Look at that, we've got controls. Oh, somebody's changed the entertainment unit. Oh, has it got cup holders?
No,
don't be daft, it's a
cup
Rover.
holders. People didn't need to have a drink everywhere they went.
People didn't have a drink in the 90s.
Well, they didn't, did they? You know what it is that actually in the 90s, people still drank tea when they were thirsty.
Well, hey! Yeah, deep and crisp and even. But what if your festive fun this year was more about deep and crisps and even more mince pies and Toblerone and cake? Oh, which is why everyone's thinking of some sort of weight loss program. And that's why scientists working out of a hollowed out volcano in Iceland or Norway, whatever, have come up with a scientifically sound, nutritionally balanced weight loss program that's guaranteed to make you lose weight. And they call it THOFA. Sounds sexy, doesn't it? But what it actually stands for is 2 halves of each week for just $9.99, you'll receive 2 boxes. In the first box, there is, and in the second box, let's have a look. What's in the second box? Oh, what a surprise. It's We guarantee that if you follow this program, you will lose weight. Don't stick a needle full of that Danish stuff in your arse. It'll make your feet explode. Get on the THOFA instead. Oh. Now back to the car. This is a Honda, what, underneath?
It's a Honda platform, yeah.
Yeah.
This is the same as a Civic.
So, but it's it's a Honda Civic with a bit of wood and a Rover engine. Of course, by this time, the Rover was no more than a Honda in a party frock, and many people resented paying the premium that was required for the Rover badge, knowing that underneath it was a much more affordable Honda Civic. It wasn't a Honda Civic, was it? It's got a Rover engine.
It's got a Rover engine, yeah.
But it doesn't look like a Honda Civic.
But the automatic had a Honda engine.
God blimey, can you imagine an automatic? Could you get the automatic in a 1.4?
No, it's a 1.6.
Thank goodness for that. Wow.
It was a 1.6, either twin or single cam. The Rover connection with Honda and BMW and everything is actually rather confusing a lot of the time.
Confusing.
That's why a lot of people get things wrong.
Rather confusing. What about British Aerospace and their involvement in everything?
They didn't
the
do a
whole
great
thing.
deal
Hold
besides
on a
just
minute.
own it though.
Yeah. What about Chrysler and their involvement in it? The whole story is just, nobody comes out of the Rover story, the Rover in the 90s story, looking good. Everyone. The Americans, the Japanese, the Germans, the management at Rover, the unions at Rover. Like I say, people like Chrysler who fiddled in the affairs of Rover. They were almost they were like buzzards circling a dead horse, weren't they? Wondering what they could get out of it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of argument over BMW's involvement. They may have nailed a few nails in the coffin, but it was the Phoenix Consortium that sent out the invitations to the funeral.
Yeah. Like I said, Paul, nobody came out of it looking good.
No.
Anyway, they made a fairly decent car though, didn't they? Don't you think? It's a shame. If at the end they were making absolute garbage, then you wouldn't really feel sorry for them. But they were making this, the MGF, which is a bloody great car, great little car, massively underrated.
This era and before this were good cars, but they got progressively worse. Whilst more and more people kept putting their hands in and taking stuff out rather than putting it in. What this became was the 45. As the 45 then had a facelift, the quality's got material quality.
Easy for you to say.
No, apparently not.
People who get in the car wearing all their clothes and don't take any of their clothes off, I don't trust them. Do you know why? No, I'll tell you why. I think it's an indication of their character, and I think they're lazy, and they will be the people who knock you off your motorbike or run into you because they didn't see you. The reason they didn't see you is they didn't look. Because they're lazy.
Yeah.
And that's why they can't be bothered. So is that actual wood?
Yes.
Wood?
Yeah, it's a wood veneer. You can
And
tell
then-
by its sheen.
Yeah, but look at this non-design in terms of the sort of the instruments of where everything is. It's very Montego, isn't it? It's very British Leyland to me. It's very conservative. Everything about this car is incredibly conservative, isn't it? But there's a reason for that, because they knew the market. They knew who was potentially going to buy it, and it was middle-aged, middle-class people.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to frighten the horses, did they?
Oh, they were good sellers.
And they wanted something like this. They weren't bothered about performance, really, were they? They wanted something quiet, comfortable, well-equipped, conservatively styled, and with a Rover badge on.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you talking about?
Out of all the cars that we've driven, this is the one I want to have a go at myself.
What, we've driven a Bentley Turbo R, a Range Rover, an immaculate Range Rover that was restored at like many tens of thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
And the one that you want to drive is this bland, bourgeois, insipid, underpowered, conservative. It's not even a saloon car, is it? You can tell it's not a saloon because it hasn't got clear indicators on the front.
And it's got a hatch.
No, but from the front you could tell.
Yeah.
Because it's got orange indicators. Whereas, isn't it funny how car makers design in features?
Oh yeah, for the nerds to spot.
But then they have to tell people that means that it's a cut above. You can just imagine in the showroom, can't you, back in the day, 30 years ago, the salesman going, and of course, sir will realise that the clear indicators indicate that this car is the booted saloon version of the Rover 400.
That's Quentin again, isn't it?
I know who'd have one of these,
We've
mate.
already done this, haven't we?
No.
We have.
Mr. Bronson off Grange Hill. This, for me, if you said profession of Rover 400, in fact, Rover 414, what is it, an SI?
Yeah, or an I.
Or an I. Owner, with its Paisley. What we call it this? Is this Draylon or fab? What is it?
That's just fabric, it's not Draylon.
It's nice though.
Up there.
It's got a nice nap.
Nap?
Yeah, the nap of the fabric. That restaurant had a Spanish theme.
Yeah.
This couldn't be more Yorkshire if it tried, could it? Look at these stone-built, stern-looking buildings.
It's not Yorkshire yet, but it's not far off, is it?
What do you mean it's not Yorkshire yet? This is Yorkshire, isn't it?
No.
It looks like it.
Well, of course it does, because it's Lancashire. Lancashire, Yorkshire, all the same thing, really.
Ah! How dare you! Oh, modern house. Look at that view, Paul. Magnificent. And people wonder why I go on about Lancashire. Look at that.
That's Yorkshire.
What a British scene this is, isn't it, Paul?
It most definitely is.
You couldn't really be anywhere else, could you?
Other than Britain.
Wales.
No, it's England.
This
Very, very clearly England.
It is very English, isn't it? It's kind of not as rugged as the very rugged bits of Scotland, and it's not as Welsh as the very Welsh bits of Wales. I said that deliberately. I realised that the British Isles in general has lots of places that look very... But look at this dry stone wall, for instance. Very English. And this is a very English car, isn't it? And I mean that. I was going to say I mean that in the nicest way, but I'm not sure if I do. A Rover 414i, so it's about halfway up the food chain in the Rover 400 series, which was it not, Paul Roverman, aka the Wookiee, designed to take on the likes of Ford's Escort and Vauxhall's Astra.
Yeah.
And just offer something that's got a bit more style, a bit more elegance, a bit more sophistication.
And a lot more attention to detail.
A lot more attention to detail, you say? Well, let's have a closer look. We've got alloy wheels, however, we have drum brakes on the back. There's a nice little Rover. Are we calling that a plaque or a badge?
Badge.
I'd call it a plaque. I bet if I put my fingernail underneath there and prized, it would come off.
Yeah, what, your fingernail?
Look at that, black plastic handles, lovely chrome grille. Why? Why, Paul? Why a chrome grille on all of them?
It's to do with harking back to the traditional British car look, isn't it?
Because it's a Rover,
Yes.
damn it. And they were trying to hark back to like the P5, the P6, the SDI. It's my hobby. It's one of my hobbies. Like other people do ships in bottles, or they do jigsaws, or they do like home brew. One of my hobbies is to go on the internet and correct people. He knows this, which is why he's laughing. I go on and I say, I think you'll find it's SDI. And people get, and yeah, I know it's not, right? That's the point. I know it's not. Because people get more angry and upset about being incorrectly corrected on that, than they would do on if you accuse them of, say, genocide or something like that. But it's quite a handsome car, isn't it? Look, we haven't got any front. There should be front fog lights there. If it, like I said, if it was a, how far would you have to go up, Paul?
This is the bottom of the range, by the way.
It's the bottom of the range. Yeah, but you get alloys.
No,
Yeah?
no, they're aftermarket. Well, they're not aftermarket. They're original Rover 15-inch wheels, but they're not. This was off a GSI.
And you get mud flaps.
Yep, those might have been added afterwards as well.
But you get these horrible black mirrors, and you get this nasty black... Look, you can tell we're in the countryside. A nice dog. Well, you can tell. The dogs in the countryside are nice. Except for the ones on farms that want to kill you. Thank you. Yes. See, she agreed with me. Right, so obviously it's a hatchback. Can we have a look at the back here? Oh, we'll need the key.
Nope.
We
Nope.
can't.
Open the door.
Open the door.
Look down around the floor.
Yes.
And there's a lever.
There's a lever.
Yeah.
Look at that. Nasty black plastic lever. Let's have a look. We have rear wash wipe and the heated rear screen and a high level brake light. And in 1990, I was going to say 6, but Paul says 7. And
well, that's what this car is.
1997, all of that on a bottom of the range car, and get this, so-called bottom of the range, he says, the Wookiee, and chromium surround for your registration plate. You wouldn't get that on a Ford Escort. Bloody hell, look at the size of that. Look at the size of that. I'm not going to get in this time. Every time I get in the boot, the Wookiee feels a compulsion to try and lock me in for some reason. I don't know why. Look,
well, there is a lever in the car, so it'd be easy enough to get you back out again.
Well, look how much room there is in the back. Quite a bit. Although, and I'll tell you what, weirdly, you've got like a proper seat. Do you know what I mean, Paul?
Why is that weird?
Because normally in a vehicle of this standard, you've just got a bit of a bench, really, haven't you? This has got like a bum-shaped... Yeah, it's bum-shaped. The squab. The squab, yeah. Getting all my terms in this week, Paul. That means the part of the seat where your arse goes. The squab. Not a baby pigeon. It's got a sunshine roof. What's right? If that's the aerial, what's that?
Washer jet.
A washer jet for the rear screen. Yeah. Wow, what wonders we have in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
I quite like the colour. And I was going to say I like the alloys, but you're telling me that they're not standard. Wow.
They are standard Rover wheels. They are standard Rover wheels
this car.
From this period.
Dear God. But the story's really interesting, and I've really enjoyed researching this part of... When I say enjoyed, I've got angry, properly angry at times, because the way things worked out and the way that other people, they always blame British workers and British management for the demise of Rover, but the Americans, the Japanese and the Germans all had a hand in it, all pushed it towards extinction. Why? Because they wanted to sell their bloody cars. BMW didn't sell cars like this when they got involved with Rover. Not really, but they wanted to, but they do now. They do now. And so do Chrysler, or whatever, Stellantis, whatever you want to call Chrysler in whatever guise they are these days. And so did Honda. Honda did sell cars like this. And Honda they all saw something in Rover, or they all pretended that they saw something in Rover that was worth saving and worth preserving. And I think there was. I think there would still be a place for a Rover in the UK car market, don't you, Paul?
Yeah, although...
Rover were innovative.
Yeah.
Rover did things differently. They weren't afraid to offer a different kind of car with cars like the P5, the P6, the SDI, as I call it, annoyingly. I know it's annoying, sorry. When I started driving 42 years ago, I started driving in my dad's admittedly fantastic BMW, a 2002 Tii. There was nothing being built in Britain to match that car. It was fantastic. We didn't make anything that was anything like that in terms of the quality, performance. It was just on its own. But there had been a time when cars like that were made by Rover. This isn't one of them, but if Rover had been allowed to carry on doing what it did, building cars that were different, that were interesting, that were exciting, that were innovative, that had untried technology, they weren't afraid to do that. I think that Rover today wouldn't be making a retro-styled car like this one. They'd be pushing hydrogen technology, or they'd be doing something different to everybody else. But the whole job got ruined. And it got ruined not just by British management and British workers, not just the unions and the inept management that they were saddled with, but by what the Americans, the Germans and the Japanese did to Rover. Between them, they absolutely ruined the job. As engines improved and as technology like fuel injection as standard became the norm, manufacturers were able to extort more power, more torque, more brake horsepower and more torque from engines. But what they didn't really want to do is bring down the capacity of those engines, which they could, because they thought that in the mind of the buyer, a 1.3 would always be inferior to a 1.6 or a 1.8, even though it was 20, 30 years since they introduced those 1.8 and 1.6 engines, and now they could get the same performance and the same power from a 1.4. And they were right, because people are like that. A lot of people think, oh, is it only a 1.4? Yeah, but it's 103 horsepower. It's a Rover family car. What do you need? Manufacturers are often accused of deliberately not misleading the public, but not allowing them to lead the market. But the problem with the public, the car buying public is, and it's a problem we're experiencing right now in 2025 with people's attitudes towards compulsory electrification and electric cars in general. The public are way more conservative than the people who make cars. And the people who make cars have to sell those cars, and so they have to cater to what the public want. And I'll tell you what the public want, Paul. Shall I tell you what the public want, the car buying public?
Go ahead.
A slightly better version of what they just had. That is the lesson of the car industry. If you get too extravagant, if you get too bold, if you're too innovative, if you go, look at this, it's got a completely different, as soon as you say it's completely different, the public go, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's different. I don't like different. Different's frightening. Make it the same as my dad's, but just a bit better. Would I rather have had one of those than an Astra, the equivalent Astra or the equivalent Escort? Damn right I would. Because do you know what you wouldn't have got in a Vauxhall Astra or a Ford Escort? Paisley seats. Quentin, he was quite racy back in the day. I think Quentin gets a bad press. At one point, I thought he was going to be the big deal, not Jeremy, not Mr. Jeffrey Carlson. And I think he thought that as well.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it?
What?
Who becomes like Clarkson was in the paper this week again. The paper. He was in the paper. What a 90s thing to say. He was in the paper. What? The newspaper printed on like old trees that you bought off a cheery chappy. Evening Standard, please. There you go, Governor.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, he was in the paper. Mr. Jeffrey Carlson. It said financial woes because of his pub. And then you look him up on Wikipedia and it says net worth £60 million. Oh,
don't believe everything you read on Wikipedia.
What mileage has this done? 57.
Yeah.
Feels like nothing. It feels like a new car.
Yeah.
And at the time, if you, although one of the people that I was consulting has got a YouTube channel that has the word drives in the name of the channel.
What Tom drives?
What he conspicuously does not do is drive anything.
Yeah.
He talks. Mate, change it to talks because you don't drive anything. And I was big in the 90s. My channel, our channel, really.
I don't think Tom was born in the 90s.
He shouldn't put drives in the name of a channel when he doesn't do any driving. It tends to lead people like me to get annoyed.
Well, he does a bit because he does have his own car.
Never mind a bit. If you're going to call your channel, if I call this channel Berry Drives, do you know what I'd do? Drive. I wouldn't just sit there talking and express an opinion about an era which I didn't live through. There you go, 1.4 litre, 103 of your brake horsepowers. The red line's at 7,000 RPM. It loves to rev, this little engine. Not exactly a torque monster, but it was all about smoothness with this engine, wasn't it, Paul?
Yes.
In this car. In other cars, this engine would have a sporting application. But here it's all about, it's quite noisy as well, compared to a modern car. And this is a distinctly retro aspect that we've got here, isn't it? Everything's there, everything's easily available to the home mechanic, including the washer bottle for for the enthusiastic cleaner of windscreens.
No, weird.
Yeah.
Why would they look at you funny for that?
Well, if you were going to shave,
That wouldn't be the reason I'd shave my hair.
glue 3 Weetabix to your head, wouldn't you shave it?
No, I could probably get away with not shaving it at all and just stick it on and then cut it straight back off and nobody'd ever notice.
But then it wouldn't look like if you had copious amounts of hair, it wouldn't like you needed a hair transplant, which is what I was trained to
Weetabix
do.
on your head. Who really needs Weetabix on the head?
Take it easy. We're in Yorkshire.
Oh no.
Has this thing got ABS?
No.
No.
ABS isn't much good on the snow anyway, is it? Oh, there's a lot of grit down here.
This is the thing. What are we doing up here? You sent us up here.
Oh yeah, did you?
Actually, it's not about test of this vehicle's attributes, or lack of, is it really? I tell you what, and my pal Tony, we've driven his son. It's snowing. What are we doing up here, mate?
I don't know. I wasn't expecting it to be snowing.
Well, I'm turning round.
You can't turn around here.
Well, I'm not turning round exactly here, but
No, I'm not turning around here.
Well, keep going.
Yeah, you'll be alright.
Yeah, well, what harm did a little... What are all these warnings about snow? I must admit, well, this is it. We're going towards Yorkshire, and it's cold there, isn't it?
It is.
Like they're on
it's not cold here.
They're on the other side. We've got the old what's-her-face, the Gulf Stream, haven't we? In Lancashire, which is why it rains so much. And then, it gets the Pennines and it stops, and then on the other side it's always cold, which is why it's snowing as we approach Yorkshire. So Rover had to go a jet turbine powered car, didn't they?
Yeah.
They thought about doing that. They had the balls to think that might be something that could work in the future. They didn't just play it safe. And I think if Rover had still been making cars now, they would be the ones perhaps thinking about using hydrogen instead of electric to power our cars in the future. They wouldn't be churning out retro styled. For me, that's a bit of the problem, because this is an utterly conventional car that's harking back to a time when that badge meant innovation and quality and something different, and it meant something, that badge. I'm not bitter or anything. What I pointed out is this: stop writing news stories about people who are worth tens of millions of pounds saying that they're facing financial woes because their pub, which is getting insane amounts of publicity, and the two people that I know that have been to Mr. Jeffrey Carlson's pub have had to queue to get on the car park and then wait forever to get served. So quite how it's facing financial ruin, I don't know.
Oh dear. Queuing to go to the pub.
Yeah.
Do you know what? That's a bit like, when you see people queuing for the drive-through at McDonald's.
If
like
I go
the
to a
convenience
pub,
of queuing up rather than just making some food yourself.
Or if there's a queue in the pub, go to the next pub.
Yeah.
Do you know what they're going to have in the next pub? Beer, like they've got in the pub that you were just in.
Yeah, and probably because it's not owned by Mr. Jeffrey Carlson or James May, there'll be nobody in there.
I love how it said that now that they don't allegedly work together, it says Hammond and May roast. When did this American thing?
Oh, what, roasting?
Roast Jeremy's thing, or he roasts so and so's car collection thing. You just think, give it a rest, lads. Look at me telling them to give it a rest, and here's me still going on about the 90s.
I know.
It's pathetic.
It is. It is.
Like this car. Paul dropped, the Wookiee dropped an F-bomb. Wow, he's not done that before.